لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله تبارك وتعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue, or actually we finished the chapter in Bulugh al-Maram that's pertaining to the Hayd wa Nifas, of that which is the menstruation and the postnatal bleeding of the woman after a pregnancy. As we completed the chapter, if you notice in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we finished in elaborating on those hadith and explaining a simple, concise, inshallah, commentary of that which is in the light of what the ulama explained, those ahadith. Inshallah, bi'idhnillah, will be a benefit for all the sisters and also an enlightenment for the brothers who need those type of ahkam or that type of knowledge in regards to what a person is supposed to do in those matters and how they're very vital in a Muslim sister's life to know that distinguishment between what is hayd or what's nifas or what's istihada to the end of it and how to determine and distinguish between the two. Because it's also important if a man what's important to that which is of his marriage, if that separation between the husband and the wife takes place, then the man needs to know whether or not his wife is on, whether she's on her mens or whether she's on the istihada. And a lot of men are very ignorant of those ahkam and they can't determine what's the difference. For that reason, we enlightened our brothers in that matter, and we finished the chapter, alhamdulillah. But there's other mulhaqat, as they say, of that which is of certain branches that we need to cover, or that which is subsidiary in regards to what we spoke about, meaning that which branched off from the lesson, which we'll talk about inshallah bi'idhnillah. We start off by that which we reviewed from last week. We'll do as we are acclimated to doing before we start every lesson. We review just a little light review and then we start the actual lesson. We talked about last week that which is of the most extent of the woman's postnatal bleeding is what? We said if the hadith of Salama is mentioned 40 days. We mentioned and said that which is before 40 days, if the woman's blood stops before that, does not necessitate that she still leaves off the salat and her fasting and her regular duties. Rather, still incumbent upon her, binding upon her, if she sees that she's purified, especially if she sees what they call al-qasat al-bayda, that which is of, that white secretion that emanates, that is a clear indication that she's purified and she does not have to wait till 40 days to start praying and continuing her duties as far as her worship and things of that like. But rather, the meaning of the hadith of Salama, as we talked about before, is that that's usually in cases where that's the most extent in which the woman waits, if she sees that blood, of that which has the characteristics of a nifas, of that which is a postnatal bleeding. And we said that's in regards to likewise what's pertaining to the smell, the color, and how thick it is. If she sees those characteristics, then it still applies to show that she still has that postnatal bleeding. But the meaning of the hadith of Salama is that is the most furthest or the most extent, usually, of that which is of the postnatal bleeding, how long it lasts, to that extent of which is mentioned in the hadith, which is what? Which is 40 days. But we said that is not a stipulation. For some women out there, they become pregnant, have a baby, or have the child, and then she'll become purified after 4 days after pregnancy. Some women 10 days after their pregnancy. Some women 15. They all vary based upon their condition and based upon a different state of every sister's body or physique, depending on the nature of their body. Everybody's different. But you'll find that that is not a stipulation that she has to wait 40 days, as you'll find some sisters. Out of that which they don't have knowledge, out of ignorance, sometimes they'll leave up the salat for 40 days, even though she's probably been purified before that period of time. So that which we enlightened them on, and what we mentioned, we said that it's not a prerequisite, rather, what is mentioned in the hadith of Salama radiallahu anha, is that that's the most extent of that which is of 40 days. But we also mentioned and said that our Shaykh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymeen, and likewise Al-Imam Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, also mentioned that it can last longer than that. It can last even up to maybe approximately about 60 days. If it's in that which is called على وتيرة واحدة وإذا كانت إذا طردت وإذا كانت على وتيرة واحدة, if it's continuous in a manner where it doesn't break, we will find, and it still has those characteristics of that which is a postnatal bleeding, where it has that smell, it's thick and it's black. It can even last up to 60 days with some sisters, depending on what? Depending on her body. And if she finds those characteristics where she's bleeding, and she sees those characteristics of it being that which is agrees with a hayd, with that which is of immense, or postnatal bleeding where they have the same characteristics, then she still leaves off the salat. So it can last even up to that extent, as we mentioned from last class. Also, we said that which was pertaining to the furuq, that was the difference between that which is istihada and hayd. That which is nifas and hayd. That which is the woman's meds, postnatal bleeding, there is differences. And we talked about that last lesson. There are differences, and we mentioned there was 3 differences, and how that which is of, firstly, staying away from khilaf, and we advise all the brothers, is that not to divorce your wife while she's bleeding or mensing, and even if she's on her postnatal bleeding. Even though we mentioned what Shaykh Uthaymeen mentioned and said, that a person can do it, but that which we mentioned from gathering the statements between all Ahl Ilm, to stay away from khilaf, that a brother should wait until his wife is not on her mens and not on her postnatal bleeding, so he can stay away from falling inside of khilaf. As far as istihada, then that is just as if a man is divorcing his wife while she's purified. There's no difference. So as far as istihada, then a man can divorce his wife while she's in the state of istihada. A man can divorce his wife while she's in the state of istihada. And some brothers will probably ask, what's istihada? And that's the reason why we say that it's incumbent upon the Muslims to educate themselves, to know these affairs, so they'll know how to predetermine in the time in which that which is of. A man can divorce his wife and where it is impermissible to divorce her. A lot of brothers out here don't know when is the time to divorce her and when's the time not to divorce her, especially when she's on or in the state of purification. Especially when she's on the state of istihada, then it is permissible. We talked about that which is of what the ulama mentioned in regards to that which is of the nifas, of that which is what takes place when a woman has the child. When a woman has the child, and likewise when the woman has an abortion, and likewise when she has a miscarriage. What does she consider that blood, as we talked about before? Now today, inshallah, we'll go inside a little bit of details. We'll talk about 2 things. I'm going to give everyone, like we talked about before, we already laid down the foundation from last class, in which the sisters, inshallah, have the foundation already down packed before I get inside the little branches. Last week, we talked about if a woman has an abortion. And we also talked about if she has, likewise, a miscarriage. We said that it relies and dwells around 2 things. Number 1 is what? Number 1, that which takes place before 81 days, we said is considered what? If the woman has a miscarriage or she has that abortion, due to those reasons that she might need to have one, for example, if a woman's raped or things of that nature, well, she might have to get an abortion. Or she might have to take those medicine in which she's what? And where she's forced to have that miscarriage, or those different types of medicals and doctors where they give medicines for women to have an abortion early, if the matter necessitates that, where if someone rapes her, and may Allah protect our sisters from that. But if it does happen, then this could be a reason for her not to have the child. So a woman needs to know what's the hukum if she has that miscarriage or if she gets that abortion. We said that that which is of pertaining for a woman having an abortion, we said it relied upon a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of that which is Ibn Mas'ud. We laid down a foundation where the Prophet ﷺ has said, إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لَيُجْمَعُ خَلْقِهِ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا نُطْفَةً ثم يكون علاقة مثل ذلك ثم يكون مضغة مثل ذلك ثم يرسل إليه الملك فينفخ فيه الروح فيؤمر بأربع كلمات برزقه وبكتب رزقه وعمله بكتب رزقه وعمله, and also likewise وشقي أو سعيد فيؤمر بأربع كلمات of that which is of. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in Hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned and said that verily the creation of one of you is formed in the womb of his mother of that which is of 40 yawman nutfa, that which is 40 days. Then it would be like a nutfa, like a drop. Then it would be like a what? Then it would be like a clot, and then it would be like a morsel of flesh. طيب. We said that from last class, we summarized and said after 81 days, or that which is if it reaches 81, then what? Usually in most cases is considered that the formation of the child now where it has limbs and also the spirit has been blown into it. If the woman has an abortion here, or if she has a miscarriage here, and the baby comes out, the blood here is considered what, as we said? It's considered nifas. It's considered nifas. It's considered postnatal bleeding. Due to the fact that the formation of the baby has been what? Formed, and there has been limbs of the child. And that is the main point that I want everybody to focus on throughout this lesson. You will find there are some minor cases where it will take place before that. So what does the sister do? She's saying, okay, it's been in now 77 days. But I see the formation of the child. There's been some limbs of a formation of a human being. We say in this instance here, it's still nifas. Due to the fact that we just mentioned it said that the formation of the limbs have formed on the baby. The formation now has come and become apparent and distinct. If that's the case, then we said that woman in this instance here, if the blood that comes out, then it's considered what? Nifas. The key points, like we said, to mention in this lesson that we're going to talk about today, look at firstly, the baby, the formation of it. If there's body limbs and there's limbs of formation of the human being, if that happens, and if that's seen and that's clear and it's distinct, then the blood that comes out is considered nifas. If it's before that, before the 81 days, as we talked about before, and there's no formation, the formation of the child, where there's no limbs on the child, you do not see any limbs, you don't see the formation of the child becoming distinct, and for example, a clot might come out, or things of that nature, that we said here in this instance, if that is not the case, then it's not considered what? Postnatal bleeding. It's not considered what? Postnatal bleeding. Rather, it's considered, we talked about before, damu fasad, or if you want to call it, damu istihada, that which is blood, which is like a sickness, or that which we said is a broken vein. But it's not immense, or nor is it postnatal bleeding that prohibits a woman from carrying out her regular duties, such as the salat and siyam and the things of that like. طيب. So we said that the key factors before we start actually in the lesson itself. Number one, look at the amount of days. If it's 81 days, then we said more than likely, then the spirit has been blown into it. And after that, anything that comes after those 81 days, like we said before, what did we say? Is considered nifas. Before that, it is usually considered what? Istihada. Number two, key factor is to look at the formation of the child. Look at the formation. If the formation is there, the body limbs have become clear, then what? If the body limbs are clear, have become distinct, even if it's before 80 days, or 81 days, excuse me. Even if it's before 81 days, and the baby has now have those body parts and those limbs where it's a formation of a human being, and that miscarriage takes place, or that abortion takes place, we said that it's still considered nifas. Those are the key factors you need to hold on to know how to conduct yourself if something like this was to take place. Hold on to those two things. They are only two things you need to have memorized. Because we're going to get inside of some of the little bit of the branches in this matter today, and then we're going to talk about whether or not a sister can come into the masjid with her mens on or not. That matter is a matter of ikhtilaf. You talk about a headache of that masala. It is a headache. But inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we'll clarify some of that which the ulama mentioned in order to give some enlightenment to some of our brothers and sisters in regards to whether or not a sister could come to the masjid or not. Because I'm sure everybody has heard and they have read some masail. Okay, no sister come in, could she not come in? I heard this sheikh say this, I heard this sheikh say that. We'll talk about that inshallah if the time permits us. Tayyib. Number one, we said last lesson that which is also key and also important. If a woman is pregnant and she reached the last part of her pregnancy, we said, if it's said, for example, how do we know before pregnancy by 2 days or 3 days? Then a woman, she starts to feel what they call ثُمَّ أَحَسَّتْ بِالطَّلْقِ. She starts to now feel that which is of those talq, or that which is of those pains, and which is of due to her about to have the baby, which is called what again, everyone? That was those labor pains, or that which, what's the other word for them? Contractions. That which is the contractions that comes to the woman when she's in the last part of her pregnancy, she will see that which is of that blood that it starts to come out. The day or 3 days before, and she has those contractions, that's the clear sign that what? She's more than likely about to have the baby soon. If not that day, or if not the following day, or so on and so forth, within that period of time frame that it's about to come out, the baby's about to come out. Like, how do we know whether or not, like we said, when the baby's going to be born, and that blood that's coming out, does she start to counting when she sees that blood, or after she has the baby? What did we say? We said that the woman, she starts to count that which is for her postnatal bleeding when she has the child. Why do we say that? Because that is the linguistic meaning of nifas. Because nifas is the meaning of it in the Arabic language. You'll find that the asal of it goes back to the meaning of nafatha, means to relieve a woman or relieve her of her burden. So the fact that we start the counting after she has the child, because when she has the child, it's as if that burden has been what? Raised off her and took it off of her. So she starts the counting of that which is of her postnatal bleeding when she has the child. Not before a day or 2 days, even though she might see that blood. And also likewise, the clear sign that the baby is about to come with those contractions is clear and it's evident. It's clear. But however, we said that which is more easy for the women, easy for them, and that which will raise the burden off of them to start the count after she has the baby and has that what? After the pregnancy is over, completely. And that's when she starts to count the days of when, or she starts to count of that which is of her nifas. طيب. Now we get back to that which is of different branches of this matter. Because I said that last week, we want to give everyone bit by bit because it's going to get more difficult as we go on. So that's the reason why we've been taking the lessons lightly, and let everyone get bit by bit, build a foundation until we get into things which are slightly more difficult. So now that we laid down that foundation, now we start to get into some a little bit more details. It says, هل يخلو هذا من أحوال أو هل كل دم يخرج عند الوضع يكون نفاسا. That does every blood that comes out when a woman has the child or when she has her baby, is it considered nifas? Does every blood that comes out when a woman has the child, is it considered nifas? That's the first question. And that all goes back to what we talked about last week and just a couple of minutes ago. So we say, number one, that which is of this matter, it falls into that which is of two conditions. Number one, either a woman will drop that which is a drop. She will have an abortion, or she will have that which is of a miscarriage, and what will come out is a drop. What will come out is a drop. That drop that we said is considered what? Istihada, or damu fasad, or broken vein. And it's not nifas. So if a woman sees a clot, which is a clear indication that she was pregnant at one time, then a week or 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, she has a miscarriage. The blood or the drop comes out, then what do we say? Is it a nifas? Is it postnatal bleeding? Is it postnatal bleeding? No. Jayyid. That's number one. Number two, that a woman has or she gives birth, and that which is of 4 months, months, has been complete. What is this here? Just to test the sisters. What is it if she has that, what comes out? She has the pregnancy. What is it considered? Nifas, jayyid. Why? Because we said that the soul has been blown into it, and we have surety that it's a man, or that which is a human being, excuse me. Because now the soul has been what? Blown into it, and it also has a formation of a human being. طيب. So we said that which is a nutfa drop, alhamdulillah, that's clear. And also, when she has the baby after 4 months, then that's clear. طيب. Now we move on to that which is another branch, what we want to ask. What if she drops that which is a clot? A clot. That which is a clot. Remember I said, hold on to those two key factors that I mentioned. Number one, look at the days, count them, and look at whether the formation of the baby is there. Once you have those two key things, you have that's your, as you want to say, your determination or your distinguishing factor between what's a child and what's not. So we look at that which is a clot. Listen carefully. The ulama differ in that. But that which Shaykh Uthaymeen mentions, it says the exact same thing that we just mentioned. If the drop where has switched and turned, where you see the formation of a baby, where you see it, that baby now has looked as if a man or if a formation of a human being is there, then that which has been aborted or that which has been now not aborted, but also aborted, and also that was a miscarriage. If that's the case, then we consider it to be what? Nifas. If that formation is there, khalas, it's done. We don't need now to look and burden ourselves. Oh, I'm confused whether or not it's a human being or not. Is it nifas, is not nifas? If the body limbs is there, and if there's a clear indication that's a human being, then he said it's what? It's nifas. طيب. That which now I want to ask another question. What if it drops, or if a woman has the abortion or has the miscarriage, and it's now become a morsel of flesh? If it's formed, then it's clear. But what if it's not formed? If it's not formed, jayyid. Depends on the amount of days. You'll find in certain instances, okay, that which is of 81 days reached, but there's no formation of the child. What would you do? It's considered devil nifas. There's no formation of the child. There's no limbs. 81 days. Keep in mind, no formation. The doctor might have came out and said it's not even a child. A formation of the child doesn't look like a human being at all. Still 81 days. Jayyid.